Topic 1. Subject of Sociology of International Relations. The purpose of the seminar, to reveal the basics of the theory of international relations and to determine the criteria of world politics and international relations, to consider the features of the object and the specifics of the subject field of the science of international relations. The main provisions of the 1. The object of studying the theory of international relations is a complex sociopolitical reality, which is a variety of forms of exchange of activities and their results between members of independent societies separated from each other by state borders. 2. The subject of the science of international relations is any social relations and flows that cross borders and avoid unified state control. 3. The basis of international relations is the political relations of interaction and interdependence. The leading role of the political component in international relations is determined by the fact that their main criterion, as long as there is such a political institution as the state, remains the interstate. International relations are characterized by the following features. Elements of anarchism, since there is no supreme authority whose authority would be generally recognized, and decisions would certainly be binding, supported by appropriate enforcement mechanisms. Therefore, international relations largely remain relations of pluralism of sovereignties, a sphere of risk, where each participant makes a decision based on their own preferences and resources at their disposal. The influence on the behavior of international actors of the increasing institutionalization of international relations, as well as norms and rules developed over the centuries and dictated by the very state of international relations, their structure and configuration. B. Contradictory characteristics, integrity and fragmentation, historical continuity and discontinuities, i.e. the emergence of qualitatively new phenomena, cooperation and conflicts that can cross over into each other, integration and self-identification of social communities. C. The impact of the globalization of world development, the economic, cultural, financial, strategic and environmental consequences of which contribute both to the convergence and division of the interests of different countries and peoples, entail both the erosion of national sovereignty and the territorial principle of political organization, and the desire to strengthen them. D. Participating along with the traditional international actors, states and intergovernmental organizations, new actors, thousands of non-governmental organizations, transnational corporations, companies, banks and enterprises, major media groups, many occupational associations, terrorist groups, crime syndicates, etc. E. Increasing loss of the state of its main role, the role of guarantor of individual and social security. The research direction that emerged at the intersection of sociology and international political science was called the sociology of international relations. Formally, its institutionalization took place in 1966 at the World Sociological Congress in Evian, where a special report was heard justifying the formation of a new scientific branch. In 1970, at the VIE Congress, it was decided to create a research committee on the sociology of international relations within the framework of the International Sociological Association. The roots of this trend go back to the 1940s. It was during this period that the work of supporters of the School of International Society, for example, the work of M. White, appeared in England. In the United States, the first works of the sociological direction were published at the turn of the 1940s and 1950s. In France, this trend made itself felt in the late 1950s and early 1960s, with the works of R. Aron, G. Butul, etc. In Norway it is developed by J. Poltum. In the USSR and in Russia, the constitution of the sociology of international relations took place later than in the West. At the same time, it would be wrong to speak of the sociology of international relations as an established autonomous discipline. Rather, it is a set of the most common approaches, problems and methods, primarily in sociological science, which claim to be alternative to traditional paradigms and theories of international political science or claim to be complementary to them. Unlike neorealists and neoliberals, representatives of the sociological direction in the study of international relations emphasize the importance in world politics not so much of national interests as of values, norms, identities, cultural characteristics, traditions and ideas. As a result, all the main issues of international relations, the nature of the international environment, the prospects for its change, the main processes, their participants, problems arising between them, ways to resolve them, as well as the most common theories, national interest, security, balance of power, cooperation, democratic peace, receive interpretations that are alternative to those that have dominated international political science. The sociology of international relations, early 1960s, considered international relations as a special sphere of social interaction, and sought to supplement them with studies of international relations carried out within the framework of traditional disciplines history, law, economics, and others. Thus, in the studies of the French school, the sociology of international relations was initially interpreted as a kind of theory of the middle level. It was designed to generalize the study of international interactions undertaken in various disciplines by identifying their common determinants and patterns. An attempt is also made to formulate the main problems of the new direction, in which the problems of war and interstate conflicts are called central, and only in the second place, the problems of peace. Along with those already mentioned, three other features are characteristic of this period. First, we are talking mainly about the historical sociology of international relations, with its characteristic appeal to historical analogies, and with a simultaneous desire to bridge the gap between micro and macro paradigms. Second, there is a clear demarcation of the two main branches of sociological directions, actionalists identifying themselves with Bobrovsky tradition, work with Aaron and his followers, and deterministic based on the creative legacy of Durkheim, school of polemology G. Buchula and his supporters. Third, the sociology of international relations of this period is under the obvious influence of the Cold War, which is manifested both in the subject matter and in the ideological orientation of research. The end of the Cold War contributed to the strengthening of interest in the sociology of international relations and at the same time to the transformation of its problems. The growing interdependence of the world and the processes of globalization have clearly exposed the disconnection of international political science between the dominant paradigms neorealism and neoliberalism, and dissatisfaction with the results they have achieved in the study of international relations. There was a desire to go beyond them, while preserving and combining all the positive things done within them. Proponents of the sociological approach insist on the need to analyze international relations in the context of global transnational relations. The sociological approach expands the possibilities of studying international relations, having certain advantages over other approaches. The inherent heterogeneity of the trends presented in the sociology of international relations, of course, affects the state of this discipline, reflecting the relativity of its autonomy and the incompleteness of its formation. At the same time, it is already obvious that the sociology of international relations is able to offer a different combination of general theoretical orientations and research programs that allow overcoming the dualism of internal and external, system and environment, micro and macro, levels, structure and actor, state and society inherent in the dominant areas of international political science. 7. Modern world politics is an intensively developing scientific discipline that covers the entire spectrum of international issues. At the same time, one of the central problems for it is issues related to trends in world development and analysis of the political structure of the modern world. The concepts of world politics and international relations are often used synonymously, although in the latter case the emphasis is usually on interstate, primarily bilateral issues. For example, Russian-American relations, in the first, on global, as well as issues of development of the world political system as a whole. However, there is another point of view. According to it, world politics, as a research field in a broad sense, which recognizes along with states and other actors acting on the world stage, should include interstate relations. It is shared by many researchers working in the field of world politics. Sometimes such terms as international politics, global politics, and international studies are used as synonyms for the term world politics. In recent years, the Russian literature has increasingly divided related scientific and educational disciplines into world politics and international relations, similar to the Western approach. If international relations are largely associated with the analysis of interstate interactions, then world politics shifts the focus to the increasingly prominent role that non-traditional actors play in the formation of the international environment, but they do not displace the state as the main participant in international communication. If we assume that world politics includes non-state actors in its analysis, then another rather significant difference from international relations is its focus on related disciplines. Thus, international relations pay more attention to history, while world politics to political science. 9. The problem of interrelation and mutual influence of domestic and foreign policy is the subject of acute controversy between various theoretical directions of science: traditionalism, political idealism, Marxism, their modern varieties, neorealism, neo-Marxism, the theory of dependence and interdependence, structuralism. For supporters of political realism, foreign and domestic policy, although they have a single essence, which, in the end, is reduced to a struggle for power, constitute fundamentally different spheres of state activity. According to others, domestic and foreign policy are not just related to each other, but their relationship is deterministic. There are two versions of their determination. According to Marxism, foreign policy is a reflection of the class essence of the domestic political regime and ultimately depends on the economic relations of society that determine this essence. Hence, international relations in general are secondary and tertiary, transferred in nature. According to the version of neo-Marxist theorists, the exclusive source of internal politics is external coercion. For representatives of neorealism and structuralism, foreign policy is a continuation of domestic policy, and international relations are a continuation of internal social relations. Representatives of the concepts of the interdependence of the world proceed from the thesis that domestic and foreign policy have a common basis: the state. According to supporters of the school of transnationalism, today relations between states are no longer the basis of world politics. The variety of participants, types and channels of interaction between them displace the state from the center of international communication, contribute to the transformation of such communication from international, interstate, to transnational, carried out in addition to and without the participation of states. For new actors whose number is almost infinite, there are no national borders. Before our eyes, a global world is emerging, in which the division of politics into internal and external ones loses all meaning.